Board briefing to order. I'd like to say good evening to each and every one of you. Thank you for coming out to our board meeting. Ms. Superintendent, do we have any public comments or presentations? Okay. Will we need executive session? We will review the agenda items and give board members an opportunity to ask questions or make comments. Consideration and approval of minutes from the regular board meeting held on Monday, November 14th, 2022. Are there questions?
Yes, Dr. Fennessy, this is Robert.
Yes,
Um,
Mr.
in
Youngblood?
in the minutes, it doesn't have me as being present at the meeting. I was present at the meeting, actually made a couple of motions during that past meeting.
Okay, we will make that correction. Thank you. Item number 2, consideration and recommendation for employment of personnel. Any questions or comments? Item number 3, consideration and recommendation for release of personnel. Questions or comments? Item number 4, consideration of recommendation to approve from the Building and Grounds Committee, A, Albany High Center modification, bid award. Ms. Poole.
This today. Okay. Mr. Dyer, can you explain why it took so long from the 2011 to the 2022? I think the school closed in what, 2018? It says that we approved this on 2011. Is that a misprint? The Albany High Media Center modification. That's what the book said. I'm wondering if this was a misprint. Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
22. Thank you, sir. I want to say that.
Yes, ma'am, that was a misprint. It was August 2022 when that was approved.
Okay. Item 4B, AH&P, architectural contract, SCL amendment number 1. Are there any questions or comments?
Yes, sir. You remember I had that one, the documentation we provided in advance of the meeting.
Yes, sir.
That was a recommendation that was presented to the Building and Grounds Committee. I was not present at that meeting. And when I spoke with Mr. Fowler about it, I had some concerns. That's the one where, because of supply chain issues, the construction costs were going up across the country exponentially, and so the original SEL was not sufficient. The bids came in at $19 million, not almost $20 million, and we did not award the contract based on that, although it was not the fault of the designer or the contractors. Prices were just skyrocketing at that time. We had several schools, superintendents who mentioned to me they had to forego capital projects because they didn't have the funds to deal with the increased costs. So what we did, we engaged in value engineering, and we reduced the scope of the project. The designer did what amounted to almost a redesign. Certainly made some significant design changes, and with the hope that we would get the price in a range of $15 million, so that when we apply the capital outlay funding that was available through the state, that the school system cost would be no more than $12 million. We were able to do that. The bids came in at a little under $15,300,000, and with the capital outlay money from the state being $2,334,000, then the amount that the school system will be responsible for will be slightly less than 12 million. Again, the revised, the bid amount came in at, the cost came in at 15,280,000, which was less than the almost 20 million that the original bids came in at. What this recommendation was making was to pay the architect based on at $19,969,000 SEL, and I rejected that. And we will come back in January with a recommendation to pay the architect the fee based on the revised budget amount, or SEL amount, of $15,280,955, which is the new estimated cost of construction, not based on the bid that came in at almost 20 million. So we've had that discussion, and he has agreed, and we'll come back with a revised recommendation in January.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions, board members?
Just to clarify, that's with that listing, that long list he gave us.
Right. That project is now going to be 15,280,000. And so with the architect's fee will be based on the 15,280,000, not the 19,000,009. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any more questions? All right, 4, we'll move to 4C. SGRAC, Local Facility Plan Resolution. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, we move to 5, consideration of recommendation to approve from the Finance Committee, A, this works consultant agreement for number 1, Albany Middle School, $73,200. Rayham Middle School, $62,700. Robert Harvey Elementary School, $59,700. Are there any questions? All right. 5B, evaluation services for exceptional students, marker learning, $222,500. Are there any questions about 5B? 5C, reading ELA intervention program, read 180 and system 44 Hope Mifflin, 102,000. 102,358,027. Is there any questions on that? All right, ELA assessment. It's 53,162,000. Any questions? Any questions on E? 5E, Georgia education grant budgets. On 1, E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, or E6. Are any questions? All right, we have 5F, School Nutrition Services Milk and Juice Bid Award. Any questions on that? At them, you sent us.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ms. Eve, you couldn't hear me?
No, sir, I couldn't. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. As we stated earlier this year, Borden Dairy went out of business, and they were our supplier for milk and juice in the Dougherty County school system. And with us having delivered somewhere between 45 and 49 5,000 cartons of milk per week. We couldn't just find another supplier who had that capacity. In fact, it was very difficult. And so we ended up having to shift from traditional milk to what we call shelf-stable milk. That's milk that you put on a shelf. And it can last for quite some time. We're talking years. Yeah, I see the faces. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I see the same thing. And then you want to put it in the refrigerator when you get ready to serve it. Not because it has to be refrigerated to stay fit to consume, but just so it'd be cold when the students get to drink it. Of course, that didn't go away. It went over like a lead balloon, the taste was not quite the same. And the pre-K kids, it was in a pouch like a Capri Sun. You had to punch a hole in it, and the pre-K kids really couldn't figure out the motor skills were not such that they can cut it and put the milk in the cereal for breakfast. So they complained about that. The teachers complained about it, and so we said, look, what we're going to do, we're going to go out for bid, and it'll be a multi-year contract. So if you don't bid on it this year, you don't get a chance to you're going to miss out on 45,000 cartons of milk per week for the next 5 years. And so, so that strategy worked, and we had one company. All we needed was one. We had one company to submit a bid, and that's the one we're recommending tonight. I failed to repeat what I stated earlier this year with the shelf stable milk. Our price for boarding for the traditional milk was about 36 cents per carton. The price for the shelf stable milk was over 60 cents per carton. So not only was it not as tasty physically, it didn't taste very good to me financially. It was hard to swallow. And so this gets us back to about 44 cents, I think, 42, 44 cents per carton, which is again slightly more than boarding, but significantly less than what we were paying for the shelf stable milk. And so it also, although we do have a very healthy reserve in our school nutrition fund, we didn't want to spend it on shelf stable milk. Right. Yeah. So yeah, we run out of milk. We have some shelf stable milk that'll probably there by the time all of us retire and all that. So that's what we're doing. This recommendation was emailed earlier today, but since it was not included in the board packet, I wanted to make sure I explained it to you, since I didn't know if you had time to really digest it and go over it thoroughly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dye. Any question, board members? Okay, if there are no questions, we'll move on to G, out-of-school program bid award. Ms. Poole, did you have some question on it? Okay. H. Okay, you won't. Investment proposal. Investment proposal? That's where we are now.
Any questions about that? That was one where, as you know, the interest rates are going up significantly. Inflation is I think is topping out, I hope, but it has gone up significantly. And interest rates with the Fed's increasing rates, they've gone up quite a bit. And quite frankly, what we were getting in our bank account, our checking accounts, and our money markets were not favorable, considering the rise in interest rates. So we had our investment advisors, bankers, look at an alternative investment tool, and so we're recommending that we invest in U.S. Treasury bills. And instead of 1.8% that we were getting at one of our banks, and 2.37% that we were getting at Georgia Fund 1 a few months ago, we're going to be netting probably about 4.25%. And it doesn't sound like a whole lot, 2 percentage points, but when you're talking about putting $15 to $20 million in, it adds up. And so what our responsibility is to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars and public funds, and we try to do that. As you know, I don't know if Reverend Bush is on the line, but he will tell you, if you hadn't heard, that we don't raise taxes. We hadn't raised taxes but once in 24 years, and 5 out of the last 6 years we rolled back the millage rate, and we have the largest reserve in the school system's history at approximately $38 million. And so we intend to continue to be good stewards and make wise decisions when it comes to investing in terms of what we recommend for purchasing, like going from 60 something cent to 44 cent on from shelf stable milk to negotiating what we think is fair with our service providers, like we just did with our the designer for the engineer for the HVAC projects, and making wise investments that first preserve our capital, and this will be U.S. Treasury bills, the most secure investment you'll find, but also maximizing our yield on those investments, going from 1.8% in one tool we were using and 2.37 with another to a yield of approximately 4.25. So again, we want to thank Ms. Hatcher and the finance staff and for pulling this together, and that's what we're recommending to the board.
Are there any questions, board members?
Mr. Dyer,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure, clarify, that's 425 basis points or 4.25 that we're going to net out of this, correct?
Yeah,
after fees?
Right. That's the net of fees. That the fees will be about 0.4%, and based on the time of this proposal. Now, TBO rates change from time, as you know, they can change daily, but based on the last report for the rates that we were getting from T-bills.
Yes, sir. So, and you're going to stagger the investments that will maintain liquidity.
Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir. What we'll do, we'll purchase the products, the tools at different times, and they have different maturities. And so we'll probably buy them $1 million at a time in $1 million lumps and transactions rather, and they'll mature either a week, no more than 2 weeks apart. So if by chance we had a need for the funds, we wouldn't have to wait 6 months to get the funds. They'll mature every week or every 2 weeks.
I think it's a very smart move. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Are there any other comments on the proposal? Okay, moving on to item number 6, consideration of recommendation to approve from the Transportation Committee for surplus of vehicles. Are there any questions, comments? Item number 7, consideration of recommendation to approve consent item fundraising request 7A, 7B out of state field trip. 8, financial report. 9, committee report. 10, board item discussion, superintendent's report. Ready for that, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll listen to the superintendent's report.
As I pull up your report, I want to again express our condolences to Ms. Hudley, Ms. Jody West Hudley, on the passing of your husband, Mr. Johnny, and found out a lot about him at the service. We won't talk about all of those, but we wish you well, and I know you have a lot of support, and you can count on us for that support as well whenever you need us. I also, board members, I mentioned to you about the death of Miss Kayla Isom, 12-year-old student at Radium Middle School. Her celebration of life services were held this past Saturday at Arcadia Baptist Church, and we, of course, assisted the family, provided arrangements on behalf of the board, so they can express their thanks. Mom was a former student of chairman, Mr. Dr. Fennessy, and he remembered her. He remembered the mom. And he said, I need to talk to her. So I know she appreciated you remembering her. and those that have not heard, Miss Gloria Lowe, legendary assistant principal, my assistant principal when I was in school at Westover High School, passed away recently. They had a memorial service for her at Westover last Thursday, and her celebration of life services will be this Saturday, the 17th of December. Of course, we'll send an arrangement on behalf of the board as well. So that's I want to make sure I said that before I forgot. I got wrapped up in this, and with that being said, now I will. Wait a minute. Let's see. Am I doing this right, JD? I'll make a presentation about my board report for December 12th, 2022, and first thing is want to congratulate our exemplary Dougherty County Board of Education. GSBA recognized them for what we already knew. They are an exemplary. It is an exemplary board made of exemplary board members, and they were recognized at the Georgia School Board Association, Georgia School Superintendents Association annual conference in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. And so JD will give some information regarding what that exemplary designation means.
All right, for the purposes of the record, the Dougherty County Board of Education has been named an exemplary board by the Georgia School Boards Association at the annual conference in Atlanta. The exemplary status is the Georgia School Board Association's highest designation for school boards. The recognition program is designed to showcase best practices in school governance and leadership. GSBA recognizes good school board governance to foster educational community cultures in order to advance student learning and achievement. This board has played a critical role in helping the district navigate a response to COVID-19 and help the district amass its largest ever general fund reserve, all while rolling back property tax rates for the last 5 years. Board members have also worked with Superintendent Kenneth Dyer to oversee the academic improvement of students within the district. The district's 4-year high school graduation rate reaching 87.1%, an all-time district high and above the state average. Under their leadership, the district is focusing on early literacy rates and partnerships with area businesses and organizations. The GSBA Governance Team Recognition Program was developed by Georgia school superintendents and board members based on the State Board of Education standards for effective governance to recognize exemplary leadership. The 3-tiered program looks at various aspects of how school boards govern to ensure that the boards remain effective, efficient, and accountable to the constituents they serve. Boards can apply to become either a quality, distinguished, or exemplary board through GSBA's recognition process. In 1998, the Georgia School Board Association was one of the first school board associations in the nation to develop a program of standards for local boards of education.
Thank you, JD. And again, thank you, board members, for your partnership, your governance, and your leadership. It's not easy serving in an elected role because you can't make everybody happy. You never make everybody happy, and so you have to study your lesson, as Ms. Utley reminds me all the time. We have to study the lesson, ask insightful questions, challenge us where we need to be challenged, and support us where we need to be supported. But most importantly, keep the best interests of our students first and foremost above everything else. And I think this board does an exemplary job of doing that. And now it's official. It's recognized by the State School Boards Association. So again, thank you for that. Thank you, JD, for that. As we go through our agenda, we have a few things. First, we're going to talk about our strategic plan updates, and then we'll go to our Rich to Learn updates, and then we'll talk about our legislative priorities and give a couple of updates, and then of course our executive session for personnel. Strategic plan updates. Of course, we have 5 priorities, and for this meeting, we'll briefly touch on priorities 3, 4, and 5. The first one being priority number 3, social and emotional wellness. We'll begin with our update on our restorative practices initiative by This Works, one of Dr. Flowers, and that part will be delivered by Dr. Flowers, who's the lead consultant and founder of This Works. He's a retired educator of over 30 years and has developed a set of products and services that are impactful in the Dougherty County school system. So much so that he's getting recognition from across the state. I got a call from the governor's office about the work that he's doing here and trying to replicate that across the state. I told him, you can use him, but you can't take him from us. and so, with that being said, Dr. Flowers, I told him he had 10 minutes because he doesn't know what 10 minutes he don't will watch. He's probably, but if he gets more than 15, then we'll pull his coattail. All right.
Condolences go out to you again. Every time I go to the radio, I look at your picture on the wall. And I'm a coach by heart, so he told me 15 minutes, so I'm starting right now. WORKS is an acronym for working on refocusing, redirecting, and realigning kids successfully. And we've done some phenomenal things here, and thank you all for allowing us to work with the students. And we showed some tremendous impacts, and that is one of the reasons why we're getting the call from the governor's office, so we can replicate it. We've done it in Muskogee County, and about to go into Augusta and several other places, and hopefully around the state. But the number one priority is for us to build relationships with students and parents. Because we teach math, we teach English, we teach social studies, everything, and when they don't do well, we remediate. But oftentimes when they don't do well, otherwise we punish them. So we need to teach them how to behave and build those relationships with the parents. And we try not to be as punitive. Short video, Daddy, you can play that for me, please. I know it's kind of time now.
At WORKS, our mission is to empower our communities with a purpose. We strive to serve each individual school campus based on their specific needs. We offer a K-12 curriculum based on behavioral, social, and emotional learning through restorative practices with corresponding student workbooks. Our curriculum is aligned with the Common Core literacy standards. Each module includes scenarios, embedded videos for classroom discussion, as well as a reflection assignment. Students and teachers have reported an increase in positive relationships between student to teacher, student to students, and parent to teacher. The modules are traditionally taught in the classroom, but can be utilized as an alternative to suspension for students experiencing various behavioral incidents. Ask about our CTAE and STEM curriculum. In addition to our online-based curriculum, we offer professional development training for teachers, administrators, faculty, and staff members. Our training covers restorative practices, mindset training, culturally responsive teaching, effective grading practices, classroom management, PBIS on the bus driver training, trauma-informed schools, social and emotional learning, and many more. Many districts have trained in implementation, a reduction in disproportionality, and a positive change in school climate and culture.
This is just some of the places where we are right now. Bibb County, Clayton County, Crawford County, Richardson County, Jones Park, Of course, social emotional learning is something that we've been knowing for a very long time. As a little boy, I learned social emotional learning from my mama, and it was sit your butt down and do what I tell you to do. But now it's been what's been modernized. But it's the same concept, so we're still teaching the students how to be accountable for their behavior. Why do we need social emotional learning? Because we need to teach our children how to handle themselves in difficult situations. Teach them how to self-manage. Why do we need adults? We're going through a pandemic, and our adults and our teachers, they need social emotional learning as well, because they have to deal with all of these. We're dealing with students now. A lot of times students don't care about consequences. And we're dealing with the heightened mental and trauma effects of this, and we're having a high number of discipline issues. So we can't punish our way to success. We can never do that. So we absolutely have to find a different way. And I'm a firm believer that students learn from teachers that they like. It's all about building relationships. I firmly believe that. Why do we need it? Because it deals with those 5 R's: relationship, respect, restoration, reintegration, and responsibility. We can't expect students nor parents to adhere to rules and regulations that they don't understand. So we don't want to be punitive. We don't want to be neglecting. We don't want to be permissive. We want to do things with you. It's a tremendous difference in saying, be quiet and sit down, rather than, will you please sit down, let's talk about this situation where someone wants to learn. It's a tremendous difference in that. Of course, it's the 80-20 continuum. We want to be 80% proactive and only 20% responding to the action of what they've already done. One of the reasons we need restorative practice because we see a high number of our students with disabilities getting suspended. It can help with disproportionality with that and the invisible backpack. Our students come to school with learning disabilities, family issues, trauma, poverty, and homelessness. Guess who else comes to school with that? Some of our teachers. Research shows that removing students from the learning environment for long periods of time is ineffective, and the real issues are not addressed. Oftentimes, they come back worse than they did before. And also, have we ever thought about this? The students that are getting suspended, the most of the ones that need to be in school? Equity versus equality. We talk about that all the time, but do we really practice that? And it doesn't work unless everyone starts in the same place. And everyone does not start in the same place. These are facts. I didn't make these up. This Department of Civil Rights. Our young men, our black students are getting suspended at a much higher rate than other races and nationalities. Why do we need restorative practice? Because crime is on the rise. Violence in our schools. Violence in our schools. Since the pandemic, we see that all kinds of trauma is causing them, and our children don't know how to be empathetic. The purpose of it, once again, we're getting away from the punitive to the what? Restorative. One of the things we're doing, we're changing in-school suspension to in-school intervention, where we are actually teaching them modules on character education while they're in there, and now it's considered direct instruction, and now it doesn't have to be labeled as a suspension. So now it is, you are actually receiving intervention. And I was meeting with Dougherty staff this afternoon about getting those students to leave out of in-school sometime and go to the classroom to get direct instruction and come back, and now it's still not labeled as suspension because they're still receiving family. And they don't go for PE and art now. They're going to those academics over. Show you just a little bit of data. If you can click on Muscogee County real quickly first. They stole from you, Mr. Dyer. David Lewis stole from you. He's a friend of yours. He stole it from you. A little bit of the things we started there. Why? Because of COVID-19. And we have a lot of, right now we have, we don't give you the NASCAR version of it. This is real data. So we started last year in the spring after starting 2 years ago. So out of 1,600 student service, we had 508 total parent contacts. Only three students after going through the curriculum came through those parents, repeated offenses. Only 3. And we stayed over 993 days safe. This is real data. These are the high schools that we service, the middle schools we service. This is March to June of last year. So we saved 402 days in 5 high schools, 391 days in middle school, elementary school, 200 days. Now, give us the data, Brett. Give us the Dougherty from August until now. We're doing good on time, too, Mr. Dyer. Go to the Dougherty now. The next link. No, it's on that same link. It's on the same link. Okay, click on Dougherty. There we go. Okay. Partner for Success. In response, after talking to Mr. Dyer, we're still dealing with a lot of issues because we have a lot of teachers now that didn't come from non-traditional education background. So, and we have a lot of teachers that didn't start out in education. So they were not trained in how to deal with the behaviors of the students. And so our behaviors are getting more aggressive. So they need the training in order to deal with the modern day students. Now, it also helps us to become more advocate with the parents. Getting the parents involved, and now they come in and they go through the circle with the kids, and now it's an accountability piece on both of us in the share. Our data from August to November this year. So far, this is what we've done with the high schools and the middle schools. 2,835 student service, 485 for the parent session, only 158 students for the pre-semester, and we saved almost 1,500 days of suspension if normally would have been. And this is the breakdown. Mary Acres, Albany, and Moray. The schools are doing a tremendous job of tracking the data as well. They're doing a tremendous job. Our consultants come in, and I'm here every day. We have 4 consultants. I think we're doing a great job days that we say, in the middle of the radio news. Now we move to the high school. We have Dougherty, Monroe, and Western. And some of our schools are a little more challenging than others, so we got to respect that. Monroe, only 18 offenses out of 460. Westover, 10 out of 338. Dougherty, 56 out of 680. These are the number of days that we say. That's kind of the NASCAR version of it. We're working with one elementary school through a charter system grant, Robert Hart, and they're doing a tremendous job with this program as well. My personal opinion, the behavior starts in elementary school. If we could get the elementary schools on the same page as our middle schools and high schools, I think we'll see even greater dividends for the Dougherty County school system. That's kind of the NASCAR version, but we appreciate the opportunity, and it is making a tremendous difference, and the parents are giving us rave reviews, and once again, we have you all to thank for it. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Flowers. We appreciate that, and I didn't even charge David Lewis for stealing that idea. I let him have it for free since he's the superintendent in the neighboring county where I grew up. I let him have it, but we really appreciate the work, and it takes a different approach. And when you act up and you get consequences, punishment, that's not really changing anything. Doesn't change behavior. So, and like you mentioned, when the students are not doing as expected, and academic courses, we do remediation. And so that's what we're doing when it comes to behavior as well. And this is a challenge that's not just in the Dougherty County school system or the state of Georgia. It's across the country. If you listen to educators, educational leaders, they'll tell you that the incidents of undesirable behavior have increased significantly since the pandemic. And we've shared that data at several of our meetings. So thank you for that, making an impact. And I think in the coming years we'll see just how much of an impact that is making. Yes, ma'am.
The question. We said we were doing that Robert Harvey also. Where's that funding coming from?
As a charter, he mentioned the charter system grant. We're a charter system, so we get additional funding for being a charter system. And what we do, half of the funds we provide to schools through a formula based on the number of students that they have. And the other half we reserve, and schools submit proposals based on a grant application. And we have community members go in and they rate the proposals based on a criteria that's set and a rubric that we develop. And then they make the recommendations, and we award those grants in a ceremony in the spring of the year. And most of the time they implement beginning the fall of the year.
Through the ones that's in there now was concerned, he had mentioned Robert Harvey earlier, so that was through that process.
Right,
also.
yeah, that was
Thank
through
you,
the grant,
sir,
yeah.
for the clarification.
The middle of the high schools are through our ESSA funding, and the elementary school, Robert Harvey, is through our charter system innovation funding. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dyer.
Yes, Ms. Heath?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
So was it just an option for Robert Harvey to participate, or were other elementary schools who could possibly benefit given an opportunity to say yes or no?
Well, yes, ma'am. Robert Harvey actually submitted a proposal. We invite all of our schools to submit proposals for an innovative grant, and what it is, they identify a challenge that they have that may be unique to their school, and they submit a proposal that addresses that challenge, and so a team of community members, they rate those proposals based on what's submitted and the evidence that's provided. Evidence-based, and it has to be aligned to our strategic objectives by the school and as a school system. And so Robert Harvey identified behavior as a challenge. They submitted this as a proposal. Patterns similar to that of the middle and high school intervention with some differences that are unique to elementary school. and they were awarded the grant. And so that's why they're the only elementary school that has this program right now. They're the only ones that submitted
Okay.
for this challenge. However, because of the work we're seeing at Robert Harvey, and that we discussed that in the board meeting, and we advertised through our PBIS grant multiple two positions for behavior interventionists, and those will be slated for the elementary schools. And Dr. Flowers has so graciously agreed to provide them with training at no additional cost, because he believes that if you start at the elementary school, you got to reduce the problem at the middle and high school. So I told him he's working himself out of a job. And he said, that's fine. If it's because we don't have any more behavior issues, then he's done what he's supposed to do. And he'll be provided with another opportunity somewhere else. There's always going to be some kids that need some intervention. And so I appreciate that. And that's what I call a true partnership.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That was a long answer to a short question, Ms. Heath, but I thought it deserved a little extended explanation.
Very well taken, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
Investment in human capital, and we, as you know, we've been discussing quite some time that there is a significant challenge in finding and retaining talent, not only in the classrooms, but on the buses, in the cafeteria, in the finance office, everywhere there's a challenge. And so we looked at having a strategic recruitment and retention plan for our employees, and also providing appropriate coaching and professional learning and professional development opportunities for our employees. And so our goal is to make the Dougherty County School System a destination location for the best educators in the state of Georgia. And we believe that if we have quality teachers in every classroom, that'll make student achievement, that'll make the most significant impact on student achievement that we can make. And that's not Ken saying that, that's research, evidence-based. The best way to impact, to improve student achievement is to have an effective educator in the classroom delivering instruction. And so what we're proposing has been a series of things to enhance the employee experience in the Dougherty County School System. One was the social and emotional wellness piece for our employees, DCSS moments, as we call them. We start with our tailgate every year. That's a wonderful event. Then we have events monthly to celebrate our employees, give them a chance to fellowship, let their hair down, so to speak. The free admission to the football game with free concessions. Working with Albany State during their homecoming week to provide special events for our teachers and employees. And then most recently, we're in the midst of right now, our 12 days of giveaways. For the last 12 days, work days of the year, calendar year, we do a drawing, and for a $20 to $25 gift card, 5 a day, 1 per cluster, and then for our departments throughout the district. And you would think we're giving away $1 million the way they're excited about the winning a $25 gift card. And then on the last day, we pulled for a $100 gift card, and to local businesses in our area. So it's good for the economy, good for our employees, and it helps just keep morale up. That helps. That's not it. You can't just have that. You still have the. So we also increased the starting pay for teachers to $43,000, which is the highest starting base pay south of Macon and Columbus. And with the recruitment incentives and the signing incentives, a first-year teacher can make $47,500. If they teach special ed, they can make $49,500. And again, that's not all. As Dr. Flowers mentioned, as we've mentioned several times, the challenges with social and emotional wellness for faculty and staff is at an all-time high. So this board has they expanded the access to the employee assistance program from 6 sessions a year to 15 sessions per year, paid by the board to enhance the employee experience. We're also looking at some DCSS perks, employee perks, that will provide with free admission to several local attractions. And what we're looking at, even with the increased pay that we've done for our teachers and other employees, we still believe that we have some room to grow in terms of the pay for our employees on the lower end of the pay scale, our facilities workers, and that employee class. So we'll be proposing. We've begun our study. We have some initial results. We're going to look at that a little later in the year, being before we leave for the break, Ms. Heath, and we have a proposal at our January meeting to be effective either retroactively to January 1st or to February 1st, depending on how much money Ms. Hatcher lets me spend. And the next thing that we're doing, we want the board to consider is two things. When we did the retention incentives last year, we said our 49% employees could only get 49% of the retention incentive. The teacher retirement system made a ruling that since it was not compensation for work performed, that they would not restrict it to 49%. So I would ask this board, if you would, to amend the action to allow our board and our 49% employees get the amount allowed by teacher retirement system, which is 100% of the retention incentive. And if you would allow that, I would like that to be if we could, Mr. Chairman, move that to an action item if the board will act on that tonight, if you see fit. The next item is, we have employees who haven't been here very long, and they haven't built a lot of sick leave, and we've seen an increase in the number of employees who have some illnesses that keep them out for quite some time. And when they don't have sick leave, when they lose their sick leave up, they on leave without pay. We do have a sick leave bank, and so those that qualify for that can participate, but it's still not enough. And so, again, looking at the landscape, not many school systems, if any, but certainly some private employers, they provide for the cost of long-term disability benefits for their employees, much like we do for our life insurance, their life insurance. And so I'm recommending that we do that as well. We're entertaining proposals right now, and I think we can get a 40% coverage, up to 40% of employees' gross wages to be paid in long-term disability for under $200,000 a year. And if the board would allow that, I would certainly appreciate that. I know our employees would. That's a relatively new development. We asked for that proposal, and they submitted one that was from one vendor that was not what I thought was competitive, and so I asked for another one, and we have received it, and it is under $200,000. It's more like $175,000 per year, and it sounds like a lot of money, but we have a lot of money. And I think we don't have it, I can tell Ms. Hatcher, we don't have it just to sit on it. We have it to invest and to try to make a difference. And if we're going to make this a destination school system, then we have to make those investments that are strategic, that'll attract employees, retain employees, and let our employees know that we care for them more than just about what they can produce, but as people as well. So if the board would either this meeting or the next meeting allow me to enter in a contract to expand our employee benefit offerings to board paid long-term disability insurance, I would certainly appreciate that. Are there any questions about the priority area number 4? We didn't have any for number 3. Any questions for priority area number 4, our investment in human capital? If not, then I move on to the next strategic plan update, our family community engagement priority area number 5. And first we'll talk about our Level Up initiative, workforce development collaboration between our school system and our technical college, Albany Technical College, where in this initiative we'll be providing job skills training for the adult family members of our students. We have adult family members of our students who go to work every day in dead-end jobs, and they don't make a living wage because they don't have a marketable skill set. So what we're going to do with Albany Tech, we're going to help identify those such individuals who are related to our students, provide them with courses, traditional courses during the day, and the evening courses that Albany Tech has started to offer. And at the end of that training, we'll have job fairs with local employers, and we anticipate that they'll walk out, finish those programs with new credentials that make them marketable, and in one hand, and job offers in the other hand, and job offers from that'll provide them with living wages, benefits that'll help immediately change the conditions at home. And we know a lot of the challenges that we face in the Dougherty County school system go back to poverty, hunger, homelessness, and so we believe that this initiative, although it's not directly related to instruction for young people, as part of our responsibility as a corporate citizen, as you would say, in the community partner, we do believe that if we can create a more stable home environment for our students, then those would be they will result in fewer challenges, those non-academic barriers that prevent them from being able to learn. And so we're looking forward to this. We certainly thank Albany Tech, and we certainly thank Georgia Power, whose $3 million grant over the next 4 years has provided the funding necessary to make this happen. The next initiative is a partnership with City of Albany Parks and Rec Department. Again, a lot of our students are involved in extracurricular activities, and many of them are not. The Albany Parks and Rec Department has presented a proposal for a series of recreation activities, organized activities for our students, and we're going to start this in January 2023. Targeted at girls basketball. We do have girls that participate in our elementary basketball league, but quite frankly, it's dominated by the boys. And in girls, some of them be on the team that don't get a lot of playing time, or some of them are intimidated and just don't go out. And so we identify this as an area of opportunity. And so Mr. Steve Bell, the new director of Parks and Rec, along with his community outreach person, we won't name Miss Poole, has put this proposal together, submitted it to Mr. Bullock. He ran it by me, and we think it's time to move forward. We certainly think, like I told Mr. Bill when he asked about it, I said it makes sense. We're serving the same kids, and we can do anything to help them. We certainly will. So we look forward to partnering with them and allow those activities to be taking place at our gymnasiums, because they'll be at school, just stay after school and do practice and participate in the games. So we thank the city Parks and Rec for that commitment to make a difference in the lives of the students that we've all been called to serve. Next, as we move forward, we're going to look at our information regarding academic performance of students. See this chart multiple times. It's the chart that was presented using McKinsey and Company data that shows the academic achievement of students after the pandemic as related to before the pandemic. And you'll see in reading, the average for K through 12, students in poverty and minority students learned, they achieved about 77% of what they would do in a typical year. And math, 59% to 69%. Overall, as you go higher in the grades, you go lower in the percentage of achievement. And this is national data. In 5th grade math, students of color, students in poverty, learned about 37% based on what they would learn in a typical year. And that's based on a 3-year average of student achievement. And again, this is by McKinsey and Company. And so we looked at Dougherty County School System data, and we said we needed to start 2 initiatives, our Read to Succeed initiative, because early literacy is our first priority in our strategic plan. And data shows that students who read on grade level by grade 3 are far more likely to be successful in the upper grades and graduate on time. Then our Rich to Learn initiative is reading, remediation, acceleration, credit recovery, and enrichment. And the components associated with our Rich to Learn, our summer school, summer learning program, our after school program, and our Saturday school programs all comprise our Rich to Learn initiative. And what that is intended to do is increase learning time, instructional time for students to make up for the time that was lost during the pandemic and impacted by disruptive learning. So as we look at our content mastery scores overall, based on last year's end of year assessments, you look at the trend that we had beginning in 2017. My first year superintendent was 2018, and so we looked at an increase in our overall content mastery. Again, increase in 2019, and then we didn't test in 2020 because of the pandemic. And you'll see in 2021 we had fewer students test that. Those results were much smaller from a much smaller testing pool of students, but the bottom dropped out, as you saw, and that's consistent with the data that we showed in the first slide in this set of information that we're presenting with McKinsey and Company. Significant dip in achievement results. Again, we believe that's a direct result of the disruptive learning caused by COVID-19. But as you see in 2022, sharp increases in student achievement in every grade band, elementary, middle, and high. And so as we said before, this is not one summer school session. Is not going to get this corrected. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a multi-year journey. But if you look at the trajectory that we are on, if we continue that, then we will be back to pre-pandemic achievement levels. And because of the new things we put in place, the structural changes we put in place, the increased use of technology, and evidence-based practices, we believe that we'll surpass those 2018 and 19 figures as we move forward and continue our Reach to Learn initiative and our Read to Succeed initiative and other interventions that we are putting in place that our schools are using so effectively. You look at this information from the state, just to compare, there's always been a gap between the Dougherty County School System's achievement levels and the states. You see that gap was closing beginning in 2018 and 19. You'll see the states dip. Also, the dip was not as steep as the Dougherty County School System's dip. But as you might want to know why, but that data is also supported by the data that was presented by McKinsey and Company. Students who were in poverty, students of color, they saw a greater dip in achievement than the average student. And as you know, the Dougherty County School System's poverty numbers are greatly higher than much higher than the state's averages. So that increased dip was not unexpected. But you also see that the recovery from 2021 to 2019 is a much steeper incline than that of the states. So the recovery that we're experiencing is certainly higher than the states as well. And if we keep that trajectory and the state keeps the trajectory they're on, then we'll catch them as we intended to do and as we were on track to do beginning in 2018 and 2019. The race is not given to the swift or to the strong. But I guarantee we're going to persevere. We're on the right track. The data shows that we're on the right track. We're making the gains. We continue on that course. Then we'll see the achievement results that we were beginning to see in 2019, and we'll continue. So that's where we are. As always, I've always said I was going to present you with all the information, be as transparent as we can. Although I'm not happy with the Dougherty County School System, the state, or the country for that matter, what we did was we put a priority on safety of our students and our employees, and I think that was the right thing to do. And then after we were able to stabilize and put mitigation efforts in place, we put plans in place to accelerate learning. And as you can see from the gains from 2021 to 2022, then that's working as well. And so we expect that will continue to work. We'll continue to see gains, and we'll be back on the road to increase student achievement as we were as we started from 2017 2019. Any questions? Next, our legislative priorities. As you know, every year we have an opportunity to present our legislative priorities to our local delegation to the state assembly, and we did this this year as well. And as always, as it has been for the last 6 years, the number one priority in the legislative process for us is expanding our pre-K. Over half of the pre-K eligible children in Dougherty County don't get pre-K services because they don't have enough slots. And the sooner we can get students in a formal educational setting, the better they'll be prepared to move forward. When you build a house on a solid foundation, I think you'll have a much sturdier house. And if they get in pre-K, we can start that foundation work a lot earlier. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I don't think you'll find anybody disagrees that being in kindergarten is important. But in Georgia, first grade is the first compulsory grade. Kindergarten is not required in Georgia. Funding is a significant issue. If every kid that qualified for kindergarten in Georgia went to kindergarten, it'll be a more significant investment. And I've said that in this setting, in political settings. And so it's a matter of our priorities. And we made very clear our priority being expanding pre-K. And so we had discussions with local elected officials, state elected officials. Even last year I met with the commissioner of DCAR, Department of Early Care and Learning, and her deputy and her chief financial officer and other members of her executive team. And when we first met, she said, well, Ken, we want to meet with you. We appreciate you. We respect what you're doing. I want to let you know we don't have any money to expand. I said, well, that's okay. When you have some money, you'll know what we need. And so I got an email about 3 weeks ago that said we're coming down to take a site visit, and we want to see if you can meet with us. So we did, and they went through Magnolia Early Learning Center and saw the technology that we have there, the same interactive boards we have in our K through 12 classrooms, teachers using the same MacBooks that we use in our K through 12 classrooms, the students using the same iPads that we have in our K through 12 classrooms that they don't fund, that we fund. And they saw the condition of the building, the bright colors, how it was thoughtfully laid out. They asked us, do we have any problems retaining pre-K teachers? And we said no. They said that's a problem in several areas across the state. And I said, yeah, we pay our pre-K teachers what we pay our K through 12 teachers. They don't fund it at that level, but we supplement it. We supplement our pre-K classes by about $10,000 or more over what they provide us funding for, because we believe the importance of early learning. And I told them that if you approve these classes, then we're committed to renovating the old Sylvester Road Elementary School to be the Eastside Pre-K Center. But we need at least 6 or 7 classrooms in order to renovate that. We can't do it for 1 or 2 classrooms. And the last classroom we received at Magnolia Pre-K, we filled it this year. We got an additional classroom this year. It's our last vacant classroom. And they told us about it toward the end of September. Said they wanted us to open it up, see if we can get it opened in November, by November 15th. We opened it up on November 15th with a full classroom and a waiting list of 40 students. And we ended that conversation. She said, Ken, I can't make any promises to you, but apply for all the classes you think you can fill next year. So we're going to apply. Well, Gail said, how many rooms in that building over there? and so I think we have about 14. We're not going to apply for 14. We're going to do an assessment to see how many we can apply for. And she said, well, if you get the funding, can you pay for it? Will the building be ready? I said, no, it won't be ready. We do have 2 elementary schools that have enrollments that are lower than typical. Then we can free up a whole wing in 2 buildings and make that the pre-K wing while we renovate Sylvester Road. So we don't have to wait. If you have the funding this year, we can get the classrooms this year. So our plan will be, if we get this, she didn't make it in the promises, but when we get that funding this year, she didn't make it in promises, but we're gonna claim that, Ms. Hurley. Then we'll be prepared to open up at least 6 to 7 additional classrooms, and then we'll apply for more next year when we have Sylvester Road fully operational. So I usually don't share good news prematurely, but we're gonna claim that those additional pre-K classes, and then our students will come pre-K. They'll continue to kindergarten, and then when they get to first grade, we won't have to teach them how to hold a pencil. They'll know how to spell their name. They'll know their colors. They'll know their numbers, the shapes, and they can start out on a level playing field with students who come from families that have the ability to provide them with early learning. And so I'm excited about that, as you may be able to tell. So 6 years, and we finally got something positive out of that. But the race is not given to the swift or to the strong. Let me stop. I forgot where I am. I apologize. The next priority is helping address our teacher shortage, teacher pipeline challenge. And last year, as we discussed several times, House Bill 385 provided for retirees to come back to work full time after they've been retired for at least a year. There are a few things with that were challenging. They had to have retired with 30 years of service or more, and the average teacher retirement retiree retires with a little over 25 years, 26 point something years. So the average retiree wouldn't be able to come back. And then instead of any content area, it had to be the three highest, the three critical areas based on the number of vacancies per RESA. So in the Dougherty County School System, in all of Southwest RESA service area is science, math, and special education. And we can certainly use those. But if you need an English teacher, you need an English teacher. That's just as critical in your school as it would be a science teacher in another school. And so we've asked them that if they are going to keep it to just 3 areas, I asked them would they do elementary, middle, and high. they didn't quite go for it, but we're going to try it again this year. And we didn't stop asking for our pre-K class. We're not going to quit asking for this flexibility either. So we're going to keep moving forward, and we think we may get some traction on that. The last report from the Teacher Retirement System Board, I have the pleasure of serving on, a little over 220 employees, retirees statewide, took advantage of House Bill 385. That's all. I think because of the restrictions that were placed on. And if you take those restrictions off, I think you'll see more people participate. And so we're going to try to get those restrictions lifted, because the intent was certainly there. Because of the added restrictions, it hasn't realized it hadn't lived up to its potential. So we're going to try to see if we can get that House Bill 385 to live up to its potential by seeing if we can lobby to get those restrictions removed. Also, we encourage them to look at apprenticeship programs and other programs, parent-teacher programs, which we're planning with Albany Tech and a couple of other schools, and internship programs, which we have. How many interns is there? 2 or 3 interns? Students who are in their final year of teaching, that they teach in our classrooms for a year under the guidance of a master teacher, and get a head start on that. They get a salary less than that of a teacher, but more than a para, and they get they qualify for teacher retirement. So we're trying to do those innovative things to make that happen. Finally, the third priority we had was modernizing the QBE funding formula. QBE is a very effective formula. It has been for quite some time. It was developed in 1985. I don't think anything that was developed in 1985 that doesn't need some tweaking in 2022. And so we've asked them to look at a poverty factor, because as we have discussed, students who come from families in poverty require more wraparound support services, more instructional support, and that's expensive. And we do it, and we make the sacrifice in other areas, but it's not through QBE. And so if QBE would tackle that, that would free our funds to do other things. Also, school safety. We have some safety grants. We believe that just like with transportation, which is another area that's underfunded, we believe that safety and security should be a categorical grant or a formula line in QBE, and ongoing support. And we have a police department of 22 sworn officers and some non-sworn officers, and we foot that entire bill. And we don't cry about it. We do it because it's necessary. But if we had QBE funding that was to offset that, then it would certainly free our funds up to do more things that be impactful in the classroom. So those are the 3 priority areas. We made some headway on one. We made headway on the second one as well, because that was a priority last year, and I think we'll get some more moving on that this year. And we certainly look to get some traction going on priority area number 3. And these are aligned with 2 2 and 3 are aligned with state priorities. 1 is all hours, and we don't mind being out there alone for worthy causes and worthwhile efforts. So, any questions about those priorities? And I apologize for the report taking longer than usual, but I thought this information was needed to be presented. Last thing, I appreciate that, Ms. Last thing, our Global Learning Initiative we mentioned, as you know, our planned global learning experiences will include a summer 2023 in Costa Rica, and summer 2024 in Rome, Italy, and Athens, Greece. I had to put the countries, Italy and Greece. People thought we were going to Rome and Athens, Georgia. We're going to Rome, Italy, and Athens, Greece, in summer 2024. We had our virtual parent meeting on December 8th. We had 549 RSVPs. We had 55 who RSVP'd. They were interested but couldn't attend the meeting. 189 attended. 9 have already registered for Costa Rica. 1's fully paid for Costa Rica. And we have schools doing initiatives, and we believe that within the next few months, our goal is to have at least 24 people to attend Costa Rica because of the short notice, and then we believe we'll be pushing over 50 to attend our Rome and Athens trip in 2024. So we're excited about this. We live in a global society, and I believe building the global competencies of our students will certainly enhance their ability to be marketable, and I'll give them a perspective, a global perspective on life, which is certainly going to help them as they develop into responsible citizens. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. If there are any questions, we do need an executive session for personnel. I was not going to ask for an executive session, but something came up shortly before the meeting, and I thought I need to let you know about it. And so I do not anticipate any action coming out of that executive session. So if you would like to, we can have an executive session after we go into our full board meeting, so the people who were here won't have to wait to hear the actions from the board. I don't anticipate any action coming out of the executive session at this point. So if you want to do a quick recess, and well, that would be up to Mr. Chair of the board.
Board members, do we need a recess, or we just go ahead on? Okay. We will end this board briefing if there are no other questions or anything. We'll end this meeting and go into our regular board meeting. We will call our regular board meeting into session at this time, and we ask you to stand for a moment of silence and pledge to allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
America, Republic for which it stands, one nation.
All right. At this time, Mr. Superintendent, we don't have any public presentations. All right. Can we get a motion for a consent agenda? Need to do the minutes first. All right, minutes first. That was held on Monday, November the 14th. We have a motion.
So with the changes that Mr. Youngblood asked for on the minutes.
Okay.
I second.
All right, second. All in favor say aye. All opposes? No opposes, the ayes have it. All right. Consent agenda.
And that's with removing item 4B.
Yes.
Correct.
And including this long-term disability, you want to do that this time too?
If the board would consider that, then I would recommend that we add the amending the retention incentive to provide 100% 49% for 49% retirees as allowed by teacher retirement, and the long-term disability insurance not to exceed $200,000 per year, board paid for our employees if the board sees fit.
Okay,
Chair,
Ms. Hudley,
I move consent agenda to include the specificities that our superintendent has on.
all in favor?
Second motion.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposes? No opposes, the ayes have it. Okay, is there anything else, Mr. Superintendent, before we go into our executive session?
No, sir, I just want to state for the record that the members present online are Ms. Norma Gaines Heath and Mr. Robert Youngblood. Correct? Are there any other members present, Mr. Chair? Did you see?
Ms. Throther, is she on? She was gonna try to get on, I didn't know. Okay.
I just want to make sure that we
Include them in the minutes. Okay. All right. Can we get a motion to go into executive session?
The chair, I move that we move into executive session.
I second that motion.
All right, motion second, we go into executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Aye.
We are now in executive session. second. Motion is second that we adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposers?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.